let us proceed. I'm sure other people will join as they get a chance. So I'm going to kick it off to Captain Chamberlain, or should I kick it off to you, Jim?
Captain Chamberlain, please.
Captain Chamberlain. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So Captain Chamberlain, please take it away.
Hey, Lisa, are you sure you don't want to give everybody else a couple more minutes?
It's up to you. I mean, I understand that, you know, you put all this effort in and only 4 of us are here, so that's not great. At the same time, this is a little strange. People usually have joined by this time.
Well, we push it to 6:15 if that's okay with you, just to give people some more
Sure.
time. Maybe.
Sure.
If that's okay
I'm happy
with everyone.
Yep, I'm happy to do that. We can wait another 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to send a text to them. This is Gary. So I logged on to a link that was on my computer about 10 minutes early and it never connected. So I had to go to the, and maybe it's my oversight, I had to go to the, to our Arlington email before I was able to log in on the calendar icon. So I don't know if other people are trying to log on outside of the calendar icon. I don't know if that's anything, but I had to jump onto my email and then click onto the calendar to log in successfully.
Yeah, that's the way that they should be accessing. Everyone should be able to access it through their calendar, but I'm not sure if folks are just not in the practice of doing that yet since we just transitioned over to the county emails. But I'm on it right now, texting people to see if they need access to the links or information about how to log on. So hopefully within the next couple of minutes, we'll have some more people trickling in. I was also trying to see if I could do that as well, Lynn, but I don't think
That's a good suggestion. I can do that.
Yeah, I think Graham can only do it because you're the admin, right? Or the host.
I'm doing it right now. I'm going to call everyone.
Yeah, I'm calling everyone right now too.
Thank y'all.
Oh, okay. Well, we got Martinez here. I'm afraid I think we're going to have to start because we're 15 minutes behind. So at least 1, 2, there's 5.
Anika's here as well, so there's
Oh,
6
excellent.
total.
Okay, then I think we definitely have, well, that's a quorum, so we definitely should be able to move forward. I hope that's okay, Captain Chamberlain.
It is. I will start by introducing Lieutenant Steve Troiano. He is over our training and career development unit.
Hi, good evening. My name is Steve Troiano. I am the lieutenant in charge of the training division. I recently was appointed to the training division in beginning of June. So very excited for this opportunity. I've been involved or a part of training throughout my career as a field training officer, providing different in-service and other training. Can all of you see the slideshow?
Not yet.
No, I don't think any of us can.
Okay. Okay, how about now?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. What I would normally say is for a presentation like this, I would generally give the entire presentation and then ask for questions. The training unit is a very diverse block of topics and different parts of the department. So we've tried to build in some pauses here so that if you do have questions, we can get to them while it's still on your train of thought. And then towards the end, we'll also talk about the department's honor guard, which I happen to be the commander of, and we thought this would be a good opportunity to tell you about the ceremonial arm of the department. But to speak about the training and career development unit, it is comprised of 2 units within the division. We have the training and career development unit that oversees all of our basic trainings for new officers, and then in-service training and professional development. And then we have our tactical training unit, and tactical is an often misheard, misinterpreted, overused term in some ways because it can be a little bit vague. What our tactical unit, training unit, it does is they're responsible for technical, skills-based elements, and then for response to emergency situations. I will say we do tend to be somewhat acronym heavy, especially in my part of policing. We've tried to make sure that they're labeled or minimize the amount of acronyms, but if one gets past us and it's in there and you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We're going to start by talking about the training and career development unit. And the training and career development starts with the recruit officer training. Something that is somewhat unique to Arlington County is in different parts of the country, police hiring works very differently. There are bulk start dates for people. They just go to the academy, that's their first day, or maybe there's some administrative. When we identify a candidate to hire, we bring them on at the department right away. And with that, we build in a process of recruit officer training. We'll talk a little bit about the academy in a minute, but we want to make sure that we send our trainees to the academy as prepared as possible to be very successful in that environment. So before they go to the academy, we have a minimum of 2 weeks of training. In reality, it's actually considerably longer. Then once they're done with the academy, we have 4 weeks of localized training where we speak about Arlington specific. And then even after field training, we have an additional week of localized Arlington specific training. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're training them on Arlington specific protocols, procedures, local laws, and giving them their certifications for different equipment that aren't necessarily included in the basic academy. So our pre-academy program, officially it's 2 weeks. Like I said, it's generally longer. We have a master police officer who is a senior corporal who is assigned to oversee the pre-academy recruits. Day one, they are basically transferred from the personnel section to the training unit, and they begin overseeing their orientation to the department, working on getting even the seemingly just administrative processes of getting them passwords for all the different places they need access to. And one thing that we've really been proud of in the last few years is a really robust physical fitness training program. We have a number of officers throughout the agency that have different certifications in physical fitness training, be they CrossFit or other types of fitness, and we've made it a priority to put that to use. And so when we send our recruits to the basic academy, I'd like to call it just a running start, although that seems a little bit of a pun that I'm really not trying for, that we're already working with them on their physical fitness. And we've seen a lot of success by our recruits in the physical fitness performance come when the awards are presented at academy graduation, and it's a point of pride for us. The academy itself is a shared academy. We're one of 17 law enforcement agencies that participate in the Northern Virginia Criminal Justice Academy. You'll see the picture on the right was our most recent graduating class. And you'll see a bunch of extra plaques in there. Our officers did us extremely proud in terms of academic performance, physical performance, and even winning what's known as the Guardian Award, which is the award given to the recruit that basically embodies the vision of modern law enforcement as a caretaker, a guardian of the community. So we were extremely proud. It's over 800 hours of training in the academy, and it's a commuter academy. So they attend Tuesday through Friday, and sessions begin in July and January of each year. So we run 2 sessions each year. We share with those other agencies the assignments of instructors. Right now, we have 2 instructors at the Basic Academy, and we have 1 instructor at the emergency vehicle, the driver training facility. That's proportional based on size of agency and number of recruits that any department sends through. Once our academy graduates complete the academy, we have a 2-week local training, 2 to 4 week local training session. This is our opportunity to build on the foundation that the academy provides and provide additional training on local and specific. Some of the topics even include just probable cause hearings, how to testify in court, report writing. We do send them through the firearms range for to teach them how to carry a concealed weapon, things that aren't necessarily part of the academy basic curriculum, but we feel are important early skills that officers should be provided and taught at that stage in their career. After that, the officers move to the field training program, where they're assigned a field training officer who is a mentor and guide, and it's a progressive learning process from the very basic part of field training throughout the completion of field training, where then they are certified as a law enforcement officer. And an officer, even though they graduated the academy, is not certified as a law enforcement officer by the Department of Criminal Justice Services, which is the Virginia's board that oversees law enforcement, until after they complete the field training program. We far exceed the minimum requirements for field training because we believe this is the most important part of an officer's training, that when they are actually experiencing real world, classroom environment work. So it's a huge priority for us. This is one of those points where I feel like I want to stop and ask if anyone has any questions while there's that train of thought as we transition to stages of career.
I have a quick question, and thank you for the presentation. So is the field training component of the Arlington Police state required? You said you go above and beyond. What does the state require if there is a certain set parameter, and how does Arlington's training compare or go beyond that?
So it's one-on-one supervised police work. That recruit officer is technically sworn and has all of their law enforcement powers. However, they're not fully certified, and they have to be in the presence of a training officer. I believe the state requires 160 hours of field training. We do approximately 480. So what we do is we break it up into 4 phases. And they end up with 3 weeks in each phase. And this allows them to work with a different training officer on each shift. So they work days, evenings, midnights, and at different neighborhoods throughout the county, so that we're not exposing them to only a limited part of servicing the county. So by the time they complete those 12 weeks, or not 12 calendar weeks, but 12 work weeks. If you're familiar with our patrol schedule, there's 3 work weeks in a month, which I realize is a little bit confusing, but it actually works really well. And so by the time they've completed that many hours under the guidance and supervision of a senior police officer, they've had an opportunity to experience a diverse range of calls, a diverse range of citizen encounters, and it sets them up to be prepared to work on their own without a senior officer in the car.
Thank you.
I think we have another hand.
Gary, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you. So once they receive that certification as an officer, and that sounds like a very thorough program that you guys have, when is the next follow-on training? Is there some kind of a status that once, even though they're certified, they'll go on their own? Do you have some other additional training, or is it more, at a certain point they go to some kind of recurrency training, or is there a follow-on kind of I don't want to say supervised training, but is there some kind of things in those first steps on their own that they still have, not so much looking over their shoulder, but you have somebody there more? Is it more if they have questions they come back, or is there any other formal piece or semi-formal piece that follows them once they are qualified to operate on their own?
So I feel like I have to answer that question in parts. Immediately after completing field training, we do have another block of localized Arlington specific training for that group where we one, it's an opportunity to try to fill in any blanks where recruit officers might have missed an opportunity, but it's also where we can teach them on additional pieces of equipment, certify them to use LiDAR, which is the laser speed measuring and radar equipment. And then the new officers, they're not recruits anymore, are assigned to a patrol squad under the supervision of a senior sergeant who also has those field training officers that were their one-on-one supervisors are still assigned to that squad and have a role in mentorship ongoing and are responsible for mentorship and squad training and kind of an ongoing basis, whether it's an identified specific need that they can be tasked with providing training on, or as they progress and something that's identified as a need for the entire squad. Now, bigger picture in terms of professional development and ongoing training requirements, that sets us up for the next block of discussion. But just in case there's any other basic training questions, I just want to make sure I cover those before we move on. But I don't see any more hands, so I think we'll. So in terms of ongoing professional training, there's multiple avenues for officers to receive training. There are professional development courses that are offered at the Northern Virginia Criminal Justice Training Academy. There are also partner agencies throughout Virginia, such as Fairfax County has their own academy, Rappahannock County, other similar DCJS. There are also other external training opportunities, federally funded. There are programs where we send officers to New Mexico Tech out in New Mexico, where there's an incident response to terrorist bombing school that we've sent officers to in the past. So externally funded, externally provided courses. And then there's our internal training programs. And so our training and career development unit is the clearinghouse for any kind of departmental training. And we have a very robust system of review. In addition to that, we are responsible for registering officers for those external training courses, and we're our liaison representative to that regional academy. As you can imagine, there's a very large group of very invested partners in managing that. In terms of continuing education, the Department of Criminal Justice Services mandates that law enforcement officers receive 40 hours of continuing education every 2 years. There are some very specific requirements on that. 4 hours must be legal training, 2 hours must be cultural diversity, and there's 34 hours of cultural education. I'll emphasize that those are minimums. In 2021, in career development alone, we had over 86,000 hours as a department. Cultural diversity, 266, legal, over 3,600, which is impressive until you consider where we are in 2022. Our career development hours are a little bit lower, just a little over 26,000, but cultural diversity is, we're over 1,800 hours at the midpoint of the year. So and a large part of that is due to a program that I'll talk to a little bit later, our soft skills program we call, and I'll elaborate on that when we get to that slide. But for a department our size, this represents a going far above and beyond the minimum requirements. We place a very high value on education and training. I think Mr. Smith has a question.
Thank you. In terms of the substance in the curriculum, do you or does Arlington Police have input into what that might be, either for, just to jump back to the academy, or the continuing education? And in particular, does the training encompass anything specific to Arlington cultural / racial history? Because I thought I saw something in the Hillard Heinz report, or maybe it was the police practices or somewhere, that there was training that the department, the police department, was going to put together specific to Arlington and specific to racial history in Arlington. I was just curious about that.
So kind of a two-part question. The first part is, as far as the basic academy, we don't have a lot of input on that, because most of what determines the academy curriculum is determined by the state mandates of so many hours of legal training, so many hours of driver training, X number of hours. And so they're largely working from a state mandated requirement. As far as professional development training, we have a huge amount of say in that. Now, some of that is going to be very specific to a certain job, search warrant training, or a specific type of detective going for something very, very specialized. on the broader sense, we've done a lot to increase our cultural and racial awareness training. And that's been from two fronts, because to their credit, the county itself has substantially increased the cultural bias and cultural awareness training. We'll get into this a little bit, a few more slides down, but we entered into a agreement to have a 5-year series of quarterly training that's presented and on what we refer to as soft skills. It's a kind of a not necessarily very clear name on it, but it centers on cultural awareness, communication, emotional intelligence, those type of skill sets that aren't really taught in any sort of other realm. And the quarter 3 training that's ongoing right now is based around there was the discrimination in housing study for Arlington County that was fairly recently done. That's provided a lot of the foundational material that's being used to teach that. So there's a very Arlington specific nature to that training that we want to make sure we're providing.
And just to let you know, the Leading with Race training that you have received, we are doing that. Our staff does that as well.
Okay, thank you.
So getting into some of the more specific skills-based training, we have an ongoing refresher training for skills. One of those skills is emergency vehicle operations. Every officer is required to go to the driver training facility for an 8-hour-a-day specific to refresher of skills for driving. That's every officer regardless. Where we have needs identified for remedial training, officers are also sent out there to work on improvement and skills. That is it takes a village type work. We have one officer who's permanently assigned to the driver training facility, and we have 20 adjunct instructors that support that program. So it is very much a large undertaking. So this brings us to the soft skills program next, which I feel like we've got a chance to really talk on a little bit. But this was very much, I would say, it's a cliche, but outside the box thinking in terms of identifying ways that we could develop our officers to provide better skills to engage with the community, to understand the community. And it's taught by non-law enforcement, because that brings us an outside perspective on engaging with the community and seeing things from a different light. And we've found that we have a very receptive instructor who's very engaged. We're really excited to continue that program as it evolves. But the critical thinking, the emotional intelligence, cultural awareness, these are skills that are maybe touched on in different places, but this is a great opportunity for us to really hone in and build some non-traditional skill sets that really make for a higher level of service. Shifting gears a little bit is to talk about naloxone. Narcan is how it's kind of commonly known. We started our department-wide program in 2019, and we have a 91% success rate of reviving. The logic behind this is we're not paramedics, although we're usually dispatched alongside the fire department, and we might get there first. We could be closer. It's an opportunity to save lives. 67 times we've been able to intervene and actually have a life-saving effort as a result of Narcan. So it's something we, as a department and community, can be really, really exceptionally proud of. Just this year alone, we've had 12 lives saved by use of Narcan. So it's been a great addition. After that, we've really taken a hard look in terms of skill sets. Officers receive CPR training while they're at the basic academy. That's not enough. So we're building out our CPR program to make sure that all of our officers are current with that. We've had officers attempt CPR 13 times, actually 14, counting one from last night. This year, our success rate is not as high as with the Narcan, but every life saved matters, and we have saved one this year. Last year we saved 5. So it's an important piece of the overall services that we provide. This is a point where we're about to shift gears a little bit to some of the other more technical elements of training. So if there's any questions, this is a great spot to ask while that's on your mind. Okay.
Sorry,
we'll
did you say when the soft skills training started?
That started in the third quarter of last year. So second half of 2021.
Copy, thanks.
Sure. So tactical emergency casualty care, TEC-C, I will say we did not invent this term. It is a military acronym, but because we're adopting the same tactics and the same tools, we're adopting a lot of the same. The verbiage comes with it. So what this is at its most basic way of explaining it, it's an extremely advanced combat-based first aid. And when I say combat-based, it's because these were things that were developed in the military to save lives from combat-related injuries, catastrophic injuries that would otherwise have led people to perish in the field. We're now able to take actions to sustain them. This is not a police department solo effort. This has been very much developed in partnership with the fire department. And we owe a lot of gratitude to Dr. Reed Smith, who's the medical director for the fire department. We, as a department and as a county, have been 5 to 10 years ahead of the national curve in adopting things like TEC-C, in just putting a tourniquet assigned to every officer. Every officer has a bag of emergency medical equipment that is in the same place in every single car, so everyone knows where to find it. And just in terms of providing equipment, providing training that can lead to life-saving interventions. Thus far this year, we've had 6 successful interventions, 12 in 2021, 11 in 2020, and that list goes on, and it's a really amazing thing that we're able to provide. And that I'm not going to go down the list of life-saving equipment, but it is things that are really just designed, things like chest seals for an open wound on the chest, different immediate life-saving actions, and tourniquets are obviously the most visible and obvious one. So it's been a really successful program that we're really very proud of. Which segues us into what we refer to as the high threat program. The best way I can describe this is as a think tank with police and fire personnel assigned to be forward thinking, to look for problems that could potentially arise and come up with the solutions ahead of those. Some of that has been our active violence response training, the TEC-C advanced medical care. Out of that, we've even now had officers trained to teach within the community or within the schools. The programs, whether they're called Stop the Bleed or Till Help Arrives, is now something that we offer training on for non-law enforcement, non-fire department personnel to be able to help in times of crisis. And that could be a natural disaster, a building collapse, a serious car accident. These are literally life-saving skills. And this is an example of absolutely collaborative effort. And a lot of what they do is they conduct after-action reviews of incidents as they've happened in other places, as well as within Arlington County. And they work with other public and private entities to increase preparedness. They partner a lot with the Office of Emergency Management. And they've really built out a lot of very forward-thinking initiatives for the department. And so this will bring us to firearms training. So this is another area where the Department of Criminal Justice Services has their minimums. They just require that police officers qualify once a year with their duty firearms. That's not a lot. We have a minimum, we do a minimum of 2 qualification courses simply with the officers assigned duty weapon. But then officers who have any kind of a specialty, whether it's even a shotgun or a patrol rifle, that's an additional 8 hours. That's been an evolution over time. When I first started, the shotgun was just something that was part of your 8-hour pistol day and forgotten. Now it's a completely dedicated training course for it. Beginning last year, we started incorporating additional technology, which has led to majority of our officers receiving an additional 16 hours of training every year just with their pistol. So we understand the massive responsibility that comes with being assigned a firearm or a weapon, and we want to make sure that our officers are fully trained and prepared for as on an ongoing process. That's not something we just complete and send forward. And so we talked a little bit about the emergency vehicle operations. On the more technical side, one of the other areas that we train regularly on is encounters of persons with vehicles. Now that could be pursuing vehicles and the tactics on that, but in what we would refer to as higher risk vehicle stops, and then the different tactics and approaches that we would utilize to keep officers safe in those events. So now to talk a little bit about the physical skills, what we refer to as control tactics. An older term for this would be defensive tactics. This is where we work with officers on our the fundamentals, even things just as basic as applying handcuffs, but also pat downs, searches, anything where we would come into physical contact with a member of the public. And then all the way through our unarmed encounters, and then using our less lethal tools and defending self. And then over the last probably 2 years, de-escalation this is where that's been a major component of our lesson plans and of our topics. You know, the seemingly very obvious approach that if we can prevent a violent or a forced encounter from happening, then it's an even bigger win for everyone. So that is something that is absolutely an ongoing, continuing process, and will always be. And then finally, the one of our biggest tools is how we simulate encounters with the public, how we simulate the actual encounters with the public or with persons that we're arresting or encountering in a safe but realistic environment for the officers. Now that picture up there is is DUI training. The officer is giving a type of field sobriety test to a role player under supervision. But reality-based training is something where we want to make sure that we equip those officers with the knowledge, skills, and abilities to manage incidents, but we want to do it in a way that's realistic but also safe. So we emphasize the use of communication and tactics to reduce force, but then to also give them opportunities to engage with force where it would be appropriate and in a safe manner so that they can practice those techniques in a controlled setting. It is a very design intensive process to make sure that we build realistic training scenarios for our officers, but we've seen a lot of success with that approach. So that takes us through the bulk of or through the entirety of the training presentation. I just want to open the floor up for questions. And Mr. Smith, I see you have your hand up.
You're on mute.
But you're on mute.
Trying to do it, according to Hoyle here with the hand up. Just curious about the de-escalation training. Where does that come from? Is that developed by Arlington Police? I know that there are plenty of outside groups, Department of Justice funds, grants for a variety of training. I'm just don't want to go into too much, but I'm just curious where the substance comes from, if you know. And then second, is there anything specific to active shooter training that you have? And sort of as a corollary to that, I know that my church is dealing with somebody to receive some training, or they've discussed it. I don't know if it's actually happened, but in connection with house of worship kind of thing, so just curious if that's a long-standing thing, or is that kind of is it either the active shooter, does it exist, or house of worship kind of protection? Is that a formalized thing, or a little bit sort of basic ideas, more or less, that you've got? Sorry for the multi-pronged question.
So I'll hit on active shooter training. We will be presenting that more to you in the forum when we're at the academy on that Saturday, as that's protected tactical information for a public setting. So you'll get a lot more details on that. But also when the community engagement division speaks later, they're also the person that if you're need, or the group that you would contact as well for someone to come to an organization such as your church to assist in training for that as well. But go ahead, Trixie.
But I'll cover the third prong on de-escalation training. So we, just like with any other topic, we've approached that from multiple sources, and including, and I apologize for not having the name of the course on the tip of my tongue, including the DOJ funded. We actually sent 2 officers to the train the trainer in, I believe that was 2020. When that was first developed, and then we've been exploring every training course that we have an opportunity to send a trainer to bring it back and incorporate into our overall training platform. One of the things that we try to maintain philosophically is to remain open to as many venues or as many perspectives on topics as we possibly can, versus trying to stay out of any kind of overly specific silo of one perspective on that. So we've taken the approach of really trying to incorporate as much from as many different venues as possible.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, and Gary? Gary, I think you're still muted. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, there you go. I just had to get it to wake up. 2 questions. Going back to the reality-based training. So one of the things I got an appreciation was on one of my on my midnight ride along was the instantaneous nature of decisions. And I won't go into the specifics, but on the reality-based training, is that an aspect of that? That's kind of the first part of that question. Scenarios that present an officer with, pretty much no time to make a decision. And here again, in this business of oversight, how that applies to that. The second part of that question is, in your training, what level of, so where are they at technology rise in training officers right now? Is it, whether it's simulators or use of avatars or there's many types of tools right now across all disciplines. So where would you say Arlington is in the tools that are used for training to help create, this realism to some of these scenarios? Over. Thank you.
Sure. The RBTs, or reality-based training, absolutely, yes, that it's really designed to mimic a scenarios for officers where they do have to make a decision, but what's most important about it is there are always multiple correct decisions based on an officer's perspective, experience, and then an extensive debrief where the other options or other possible routes are explored and discussed and fleshed out. So the officer maybe in training saw their own, based on their perspective, one avenue of a solution, and then on a debrief is given the opportunity to reflect, and then in the future that guides whether they could choose multiple different ways to respond to a similar type event. In terms of technology, that is absolutely an ongoing process. We have access to one simulator through our academy that is used very regularly, or as a part of the basic training academy. And then we also have we do find that using role players and actual people tends to be extremely successful, but I have an appointment with a vendor that wants to discuss VR, basically a VR headset for training environment that we're going to be evaluating in the near future, that has potential to provide really great opportunities just in the station and on the short term. So there's a constant evolution, I think, on technology, where we don't want to overcommit to any single and one, but we have found that we have a really high degree of success working with trained role players on scenarios, but we're always open to considering new technologies, new equipment as it comes out.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Then I'm going to talk about something really near and dear and passionate to me, and that's the Honor Guard. The Honor Guard is the ceremonial unit, wing, arm of the department. If you follow the department on Twitter, you will probably have seen me, though maybe covered by a flag, on a fairly regular basis. It's an all-volunteer unit. There's no extra pay. There's no extra anything other than the satisfaction of giving back and being able to contribute. Our operating mandates are that we will send, our first priority is any line of duty death to an Arlington or other law enforcement agency, either in Virginia or neighboring state, Virginia, DC, Maryland. Then we provide honors to our retirees. We essentially, depending on the family's needs or desires, we often run their funerals. And then we participate in ceremonial events with the community. Some of those are to present the colors at the Washington Nationals game, but other times it's also partnering with community members to present the flag, and that could be, sometimes it's the county board for swearing in ceremonies and things of that nature. Other times it's a youth soccer tournament over at Long Bridge Park. The American Legion just contacted us to ask with their groundbreaking for their building. So it's a service that we offer to the community. One of the things that we also do that is a really special and important event to us is we host our departmental Arlington County Memorial Ceremony every May 15th. Well, May 15th is National Law Enforcement Memorial Day. We hold our ceremony a few days before because our officers are extremely involved in National Police Week, which is the national event where the Law Enforcement Memorial in DC, every year the names of fallen officers are engraved on the wall, and the families are brought out for a number of ceremonial events, opportunities to honor them, counseling for survivors and especially for the children. And then we participate in a large number of ceremonies to honor them. That includes, we greet the families at the airport when they arrive. We can never make up for that loss. We can never make things better, but we can tell them they're not alone, and that they are supported through the entire time that they're in the National Capital Region. Our officers have made some amazing connections. On the previous slide, you'll see, and you may have seen over the past few years, pictures of our officers with British and Australian and German and different officers during National Police Week. And always at our ceremony, you'll see a number of bobbies, officers from usually the London Metropolitan Police, but also some of the smaller agencies throughout the United Kingdom. Now, in one of the most selfless acts, they take their vacation time and they come over here in uniform to help comfort the survivors and work with them. And we've developed a lot of really close relationships with our law enforcement family in the UK in particular, so much so that in 2015 we started doing the same, and in 2016 all volunteer, all on our own expense, I organized, and we were at the forefront of leading the first regional group over to the UK Memorial Service in London, and we've had officers continue that tradition over the years, not including COVID. It's a legacy we're exceptionally proud of because it's really shown a sense of belonging to a greater community within law enforcement. But our honor guard is in a lot of ways the face of that, relationship with the community, and our representation of how we will love to best represent our department. So it's afforded us some wonderful opportunities to engage with the community over the years, and that's something that we're exceptionally proud of. So if do you have any questions about our ceremonial team? Okay. Well, I went a little bit under the time, but.
All right, Lisa, do you want to take 5 before we start the next one?
That would be great. Thank you so much. That was really fascinating, and particularly the honor guard. I really enjoyed hearing about that. So, yes, I'll entertain a motion to stand in recess until 7:09 if somebody wants to make the motion.
I so move.
Anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Excellent. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, terrific. I'll see everybody in 5 minutes and 7:09. Okay, everyone, we are back. So Captain Chamberlain, over to you again.
All right, this is the Community Engagement Division presentation. This is Captain Scott Linder, and I'll let him take it away.
Hello. As Natasha said, I'm Scott Linder. I'm the captain of the Community Engagement Division. I've been a police officer in Arlington since December 1995. I think that's 26 and a half years. And I've been a captain since June of 2 years ago. So just hit 2 years as a captain. I've been for community outreach and with the newly formed Community Engagement Division since then. So excited to be here. Do we want to start? Okay, go ahead. So Community Engagement Division, we were formed back in August of last year, 2021. The county's been doing, or the police department been doing community outreach for many years, and we had district teams, a thing called CB Pop, a lot of different things for community outreach. But when this past summer, when the school resource officers were, or the public schools voted to remove school resource officers, the chief and the county manager got together on how we can still ways to continually impact the community. We already had a business outreach unit, we had a community outreach unit, and we had school resource officers, and those were now leaving the schools. And what way to further positively affect or have impact on the youths of Arlington, and that was to start a youth outreach unit and form the Community Engagement Division with a brand new deputy chief, which would be Deputy Chief Vincent, who I think you all have already met. So that was the formation of the Community Engagement Division. Can you take that stuff off? So some of the slides I can't see. There we go. So that was the beginning of the Community Engagement Division. This is the commitment to the community, which you may have seen already. The men and women of the police department dedicated to providing the community with the highest quality of professional law enforcement services. We will continue to hold ourselves accountable while ensuring we are transparent with those we serve. Committed to being actively engaged with the community and always being present at the table to have difficult conversations. We take great pride in the relationships we've built through Arlington, but recognize that our trust is earned each day. That is the overall ACBD's commitment to the community, and that's kind of where we go. We'll go to the next slide and where what we do. So we've been working on our standard operating procedures and our mission and core values. The mission of the Community Engagement Division is to build, strengthen, and promote trust, positive relationships, and partnerships by engaging Arlington's diverse communities through strategic programs encompassing education, communications, positive non-enforcement interactions, problem solving, and outreach. We will promote an agency-wide community policing philosophy and leverage strategic partnerships to create lasting solutions to community safety concerns and improve the quality of life. Basically, our goal is to do outreach through various different ways: education, community conversations, and difficult conversations, and to empower the community and to work with the police department to solve community problems. Our vision is for all members and divisions within ACPD to embrace community engagement by partnering with community members and organizations to foster a positive police community trust and partnerships, so we may collaboratively identify and problem solve local challenges and increase safety for residents, visitors, businesses, and officers. So we have 4 divisions within the police department: community engagement, criminal investigations, operations, and system management. Our primary role is community engagement, but our vision is to incorporate all the four divisions and empower them and work with them to allow them to do community engagement as well, so we can have lasting and impactful events or solutions to problems, not just Band-Aid fixes. As you've probably already seen, we have 4 key initiatives: transportation safety, community engagement, crime prevention and control. And the 4th is, when Chief Penn was hired, brought in wellness, which would be on the next slide, which is more of a concentration, an internal opposed to an external concentration on the police department to make better and effective police officers by working on our health and well-being. which ultimately has a positive impact on the community. Community policing philosophy: attempt to involve the community as an active partner with the police in addressing crime problems. It involves a true trusting partnership with the community and a willingness to accept and use input from the community. Problem solving: it emphasizes that many crimes are caused by underlying social problems and attempts to deal with those underlying problems, rather than just responding to each criminal incident. Problem solving or problem-oriented policing seeks to solve problems and have an outcome. Basically, that's saying we're not doing the Band-Aid fix, as I mentioned before. We are trying to find out what is the underlying problem that's occurring, and how do we solve that problem so it never happens again. And that's working with community and other entities within the county to do that. Here's our organizational chart. The division commander, we have 3 sections, which would be, 2 sections: business outreach and community resource section. Community resource has community outreach, which is basically more of the adult version, and the youth outreach, which are centralized on emphasis on the children and the students. We also have the LGBTQ plus liaison team, which is coordinated out of community outreach team. Our business outreach, which is responsible for coordinating with the businesses, and then the Department of Human Services and Office of Emergency Management liaison. Within the business outreach, we have the Arlington Restaurant Initiative, Business Safety Initiative, and the Auxiliary Police Unit. Supervisory staff: you've met Deputy Chief Vincent, myself, and currently we have Lieutenant Hagloff and Lieutenant Proud and 2 sergeants. Unfortunately, as you've probably heard, staffing is what it is within the police department, and we don't quite have all the personnel we would like that can make us even more effective as an engagement team. We're down 2 sergeants and I believe 6 officers, what we normally have. So here's our youth outreach unit, which I mentioned before, and kind of already said all this, but the goal is to proactively engage Arlington's youth through community-based education programs and relationship-building activities, or identify trends in youth-involved crime and develop effective prevention and mitigation strategies. Leverage partnerships with other county agencies and community organizations that work with youth to engage with them through community-based activities. Utilize effective problem-solving and relationship-based policing strategies to provide services and educational programs to youth in the community and build relationships to prevent incidents of at-risk behavior. There's our youth outreach team. So when we went from SROs to youth outreach, we were allotted 16 SROs. We had anywhere between 13 and 11, and we have 4 youth outreach officers. So I imagine you can see the challenges it has as we're not in the schools, and to really try and find impactful ways to reach out and talk to the kids in the community. Community outreach serves as a primary liaison between the residential community and the police department regarding community and crime-based concerns and relationship-building activities. Maintains partnerships and collaborates with the residential community, civic association groups, and other stakeholders. Understand and address community concerns pertaining to crime, safety, and quality of life issues. Develop relevant educational programming, ensure community members are knowledgeable about about department service and programs that utilize effective problem-solving, relationship-based policing strategies to provide services to the residential community, build relationships, and mitigate community safety issues. Basically, we're there to talk to the residents, do events, or problem solve in communities where they may be experiencing some sort of underlying issue, that we can work with them and try and solve issues that are beneficial for both parties. Here's our community outreach team, currently 6 officers. And FR K9 Brooks, who is also part of our community outreach team. He's our 2-year-old English lab support dog. Maybe some of you have seen him around. He seems to get a lot of attention and a lot of pictures around the community. He goes to most of our events and is very positive. We actually used him for one of the COVID events for kids that were nervous about going and getting the shots for young kids when that first opened up. And he went and laid there and got petted for a long time, and it really helped the kids and their anxiety with getting some of the shots. So it's not just police related, it's what he can do to help members of the community. And we've used him for stuff at the Capitol after some incidents there to help those officers. He goes a lot of places and does a lot of good. It's amazing what a dog just sitting there and smiling at you does to help your day. We'll go one more, and then if there's any quick questions after we get through the community engagement bit or the community outreach, I can answer a couple questions. So this is JP Montoya. He's started in 2018. He's in community engagement division. He serves as our official Latino liaison, which was as we were trying to reach out to communities and give a way for them to talk to us. He was all excited about doing it, and he's really working hard in contacting, reaching out to some communities that we may not have had the best of luck engaging and building trust with. He's a former Marine, native of Colombia, and he just recently got certified as a motor officer. So he takes his motorcycle a lot of places with him, and then kids and the community really enjoys it when he goes out there. I'll pause right now if there's any questions so far before we move on to the business outreach. Does anyone have anything?
I have a question.
Yes,
I
sir.
say I guess I had my hand up, which I didn't mean to until now, but do the community engagement officers have responsibility for responding to calls of service at all, or is it straight 100%, when they're on duty, they're fully on duty on the community engagement, or how does that work?
So I'll get into a little bit about our roles a little bit further down, but we have 10 officers and 2 sergeants, which you saw. We work the standard patrol shifts, and our day is 9 to 7 basically. So it's kind of a hybrid model of the patrol shift of the midnights, days, and evenings. But they cover each side of the week. So we have 7-day coverage. So there's 5 on each side. There's 2 youth on each side and 3 community outreach officers. And we are the Swiss Army knife, for lack of a better term, is we're present and available. So we have our primary job, which is engagement events and activities, or whatever we happen to be doing that day, doing park checks, you name it, we're doing it. But we also will help supplement the patrol section when they're overwhelmed with calls for service, or if they're shorthanded, or anything like that. So yes, we do respond to calls, and if we're out there in the community and something happens, we go. We had the call today at the high school, and then we went to that. So yes, we respond to calls. We do everything that the normal police officer has. We just have a bunch of extra ancillary duties, or primary duties, more like it. Yeah. Go ahead, Gary.
Hi. So what would be the normal term where Corporal Montoya would serve as a liaison officer? Is this something that's intended to, create some longer term relationships, trust in things? I mean, it probably varies, but what would you expect his tenure would be as this liaison officer?
I would expect minimum 2 to 3 years. How that works out, I don't know what will happen with that as people promote, people change, and staffing changes, and the needs of the department overcome that. But he doesn't have to stay in CED to be the liaison officer. It's a role he embraces and cherishes. So it may be something he does for his entire career. I don't know. This was a new program we started, and we're still developing it and seeing how it works and the best way to implement it. So yeah, as long as he's in CED, he'll be that officer. And it's one of the things, that's why we got him certified as a motor officer. So, because that's one thing he wants to do, is be a motor officer. So we did that for him so he can stay where he was and still embrace the community aspect of it, while at the same time being able to do the motorcycle thing as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one other question. Would the community outreach group respond to fluid situations, or is it more they design and attend structured events? And when I say fluid situations, I'm thinking of, you know, a dynamic that might arise where either for the youth, you know, like in middle school, or there's groups that are sort of I'm just hypothetically like reporting. Let's say you're getting reporting from the patrol officers that kids in this one area or are sort of beefing with kids in another area, and would they sort of try to mediate that informally if they got a report, say, from somebody in a school or at a community organization, or would they really focus on sort of more structured, longer term? We want to meet with the community group in this area. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, we would do both. If you're talking about an active incident, if we're working, we'll respond. I don't think that's what you're talking about, like an active fight between two groups.
But let's say, well, actually, I was sort of thinking, like, let's say there were fights between two groups, and then there was a desire to sort of mediate that going forward, but more like an intervention before. And this is, I don't know how much this happens, honestly, you know, but I'm just, if there were groups that showed some animosity, you know, younger kids, 16, 17, 15, whatever, and maybe there had been reports of fighting, and there was a desire to mediate or prevent that in the future. So there's nothing ongoing at the moment, but there's a concern that, hey, these groups show up at school at the same time or in the same park, or, you know what I'm saying? Like to think proactively, would that be something that they would do, or is that more just a straight law enforcement patrol officer kind of do?
Yes, a part of community outreach is myself and Lieutenant Hagloff are on the schools threat assessment team, and we work with the schools for stuff like that. So if something's going on in the schools, they'll call us, we'll talk about it. So yes, we'll do what we can. We can't just go in the schools. If the schools ask for help and stuff like that, we will do that. We have had public meetings with schools about drugs in some schools and conversations about how we can help mediate that. So yes, short or long answer, depending on your perspective, is yes, we would absolutely help with that if asked. And we have done that.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, so the third part of the division is the business outreach. And they're the primary liaison between business community and the police department, and pretty much do the same things we do, developing different programs and all related to businesses and using problem solving skills to do that. Now this unit is much smaller, which you're about to see. It's 2 people. And it's Tatiana Hernandez, who is part of the business outreach, and then Samantha Brienne, who does the Arlington Restaurant Initiative. She's our restaurant liaison. She works directly with the restaurants for the Clarendons or Crystal City for the nightlife. And we do have a national model on how our Arlington Restaurant Initiative was developed by Corporal Jim Mastoris, who retired, I think, 2 years ago, and Sam took over for him on how to work in a collaborative, non-siloed approach with the restaurants on how to minimize criminal activity and different activities at the restaurants, over serving, drunken publics, you know, crimes against persons, you could rapes, robberies, stuff like that, through education. And they worked with the restaurants and gained trust of the restaurants, because before it was an adversarial relationship where they thought the police or ABC was coming in to try and shut them down, opposed to a current relationship where it's, hey, let's work together, get everyone educated so we don't have 18-year-olds with fake IDs coming into the bars. We don't have people being overserved. We have bartenders watching for people spiking patrons' drinks. It's really, she just did an award a couple months ago for fake IDs to a couple different restaurants. I think it was Bar Bow and the other one skips my mind, for bouncers who led the area or the county and recovered of fake IDs. which is a big deal, because imagine all these college kids and some people that are really going in and they're young and over drinking and things that can happen to them when that happens. And so they really worked hard and well together. They do trainings on different things and different initiatives that have been very positive for that community. Our auxiliary police unit, they're sworn, unarmed volunteers that can be called into public service by the chief of police in times of public emergency or insufficient numbers for officers for duty or at any time for training. They don't have a set schedule. They typically work special events like July 4th or Marine Corps Marathon, stuff like that. They are a visible presence that are a huge help to the police department. Heather Herlock, who's in the top picture with she does child seat installations. She does CEPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design. She's huge into the bicycle registrations, which helps us get bicycles back once they've been stolen. And motor escorts, which Charlie Neal, who you see in a second, has been a motor officer since I think I've been here for 25 years. He's also was an NBC. I don't think he works for NBC anymore. Was on NBC News. So those are our auxiliaries, all volunteer. Charlie Neal's right there in the middle. He's a motor officer. He's one of the most skilled motorcycle riders we have, I believe. So they are a huge help to us. They are unpaid and they do not carry weapons, or they do not carry firearms, excuse me. And they really are a valuable part of our police department. Any questions about those last two? And the LGBTQ plus liaison team, this is comprised of volunteer officers, and they provide liaison services to the LGBTQ plus communities. The team also serves as a training and advisement resource for the department where LGBTQ plus issues are concerned. Each member is officially signed to another component of the department, and they perform the LGBTQ plus functions in addition to their regular duties. And it's coordinated by the chief of police, which is given to the community engagement division to actually run. Yeah, it's an all volunteer unit, but it's very, very effective for us. And people actually really enjoy being in it and reaching out to the community. It's another way to connect with the community, like JP Montoya for underserved communities where we may not have enough conversations. The primary role of CED. I mentioned a bunch of this before, but community problem solving, engagement, outreach and inreach, education, and the last part I think we talked about is departmental support, the Swiss Army knife portion, where when they need help, they call us because we're usually able to do that. Because nothing we do is mandatory. It's more of positive relationship building. So if we can drop some things, what we're doing to go support in other areas. Some of our responsibilities, the community police academies, you all may know about or may not. We revamped Community Police Academy. We did our first one this spring. We currently today is our first ever teen academy, which is 25 high school age students that are literally learning about what police do. It's a modified version of our Community Police Academy, and then we're kind of excited about it. It's 9th to 12th graders, and they came out for today and had some burgers with us, but they were really super engaged. I went by there for an hour or so yesterday. They were super engaged, asked a lot of interesting questions. I think several of them want to be police officers when they get older, so it's something very positive we want to keep around. We think when I say our goals are to do impactful, lasting, impactful things for the community, I think that's one of them, a teen police academy, because these kids will really understand what a police officer is and what we do. The third one is a Spanish version of the Community Police Academy, and that's this fall, which will be. It's still being worked out whether we can do a live version or not, but it'll be at least 25 community members, all conducted in Spanish. And we're working with stakeholders in the community to find out what the Spanish community wants to learn about the police department. So it's not going to be the same as the community police academy we have. It's more structured towards the Spanish community and what they want to learn about the police department. So that's in development right now as we speak, as they're working out the kinks on exactly what it's going to look like. The public safety block party, we did one 4 or 5 years ago, so we're bringing it back. I don't know if we'll do it every year. It might be every other year. It is a significant event at Kenmore on August 27th. I think that's a Saturday. And that should be a lot of fun. It's a commitment by ourselves, the Sheriff's Office, OEM, the Fire Department, and many other entities in the area. There will be a Coast Guard boat there. There will be mounted park police officers. Fairfax is bringing their helicopter. We're doing a behind the badge event where people will literally dress up as police officers and go through scenarios. There's a kids zone. There's a state police is coming with VIN etching and for vehicles. Oh, there's so much I'll miss stuff. I can't say it all, but it's pretty exciting. I mean, there's a video game trailer coming and moon bounces for kids. A lot of fun stuff. There'll be a motorcycle rodeo at some point where the motorcycle officers will ride through a cone course. We'll have different police cars out there. A lot of different things that highlight public safety. The sheriff's office will have stuff there. The fire department will have, everyone loves firefighters. They'll have all their cool trucks there. There's working on one thing where they'll do a identification for kids where they can fingerprint them and do all that and give it to the parents that they leave in case, God forbid, something happens to a child. They'll have their fingerprints and hair and different things on file. So a lot of different cool things going on with that. Definitely something that you all should attend if you have time. SEPTED surveys, that's a crime prevention through environmental design. That's a new primary responsibility. We spent some money getting several people from Outreach certified. And basically what that is, it's a lot of words. What it does is the officers come out to the communities, neighborhoods, or houses, or residential buildings, or even commercial buildings, and try to provide ways to or recommend ways to design the building or the structure, the exterior structure, the trees and bushes and other buildings to help limit crime, if you will. So they look at your lighting to see if your lighting's appropriate, where it's at, whether trees and bushes are overgrown, fence lines, all those kind of things that can help reduce the incidence of crimes just by how everything is formatted in the community. National events, National Night Out, which is the first Tuesday in August. I think we have 7 neighborhoods scheduled right now so far, last I heard. Usually we get 10 to 15. We have National Drug Take Back, which we work with the Drug Enforcement Agency. I'm sure you all have seen that. We also have our drug bins, which we have 4 different locations where to help try and get some of the prescription drugs off the street is when you're done with them, bring them to the bins and you dump them and we get them disposed of. And National Drug Take Back is just every quarter, I believe, where we hold an event and let people drive up and dump their prescription drugs. Quarterly events is something I implemented when I first came on 2 years ago, and that was the idea is what kind of quarterly events can we structure to do things that's beneficial for the community. Some of those are, maybe you've seen our food drives that we do, and we partner with AFAC. We've got a couple tons of food that we've delivered to them for people that need help with food. We did a Halloween parade 2 years ago during COVID. And you'll see a picture of one of the cars, which is my favorite here, coming up soon. And last year we did a trunk or treat and we partnered with Parks and Rec. Part of our goal is to partner with all the other different county entities to really be lasting and impactful. So that was trunk or treat. We do the holiday toy drive every year and distribute the toys to different places in Arlington where they can give them out to kids in need. Summer patrol camp. and rag kids, we do patrol camps. There's 4 this year, along with the teen camp. But the patrol camp are for elementary age kids, and rag kids is I don't say it's self-defense, but it's a child empowerment, where they teach them different things to empower them, and there's some self-defense in that. Safety presentations, which we will provide, run, hide, fight, different presentations, and then community civic association meetings that's something we do regularly if people ask, and we have the ability to do it. We'll get on, and I was on one before I came here with Aurora Highlands and Crystal City Civic Association presidents about crime in the area. But we try and provide as much information and education about what's happening and when it's happening. So when people ask, we're the go-to to talk to them and provide that information. Problem solving and education. So a couple of things that we've done. I put these 2 examples up here. I won't go into too much great detail unless you want it. 2 years ago, we started the Green Valley Public Safety Task Force with the Green Valley Civic Association and a bunch of other stakeholders in the community and in the county. And what we told Green Valley Civic Association is we'd like to do this, but we don't want to lead it because it should be them and us being just a part of it. And it was to address many issues that the community was complaining about. And so we started that and came up with a checklist of short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals, which some of it was just, there was a trash and littering issue that people complained about over the weekends. The problem was there weren't enough trash cans, which one would think is a simple solution, but no one added trash cans. And we talked about it, and it was like, all right, let's get some trash cans. So we had people from the county who could do it, said, can we get some more trash cans? We got trash cans added. That's helpful. Some of it was people on Drew's school at night, and lighting in the area. Some of the lights were out. We actually brought in most of the heads of the departments in the county, and we walked the entire Drew school and park area and made a checklist of all the things that needed to be fixed. And some of the lighting issues were fixed within the week. Lighting on the basketball courts was allowed to stay on longer, so the kids could play longer on the courts, but there was lighting in the area that was just broken and not working, and we got those fixed. So that's not a law enforcement issue, but the result of it could result in the need for law enforcement. So that's what I mean, that what are the underlying issues that we can help with to reduce criminal activity? And that would be one of them, is fixing the lights, adding trash cans, stuff like that, and bringing groups together. And that's what we try and do. So that was kind of that, and that's still ongoing. We have a meeting on July 25th about some ongoing issues too. So it's a continuous thing where we continue to talk and work our way through it. The carjacking series, we had a carjacking series a year or so ago in Crystal City. I don't know if any of you all remember that or not, but as a result, the Community Engagement Division, or Community Outreach at the time, came up with a operational plan on how to address it. Obviously, with staffing issues being down, we're not everywhere all the time, but we can address issues when they're happening, or if a series is happening, and that's what we did. It was a multi-pronged approach, and that's how we address things in the police department. We wanted to have an educational component, which with businesses and individuals. So we reached out to our businesses, had business outreach, reach out to them, a business, and remind them, hey, remind your people. This was a lot during COVID, so people were just parking, leaving their car running, running in and coming back out. They come back out, their car's missing because they're leaving it running with the keys in it. And so we asked the businesses to remind their patrons, hey, park your car, lock your door, come in. Uber drivers to do the same thing. And so they pushed the message out. We had our officers would go out, drive around Crystal City, and when they saw a car parked in the middle of the road or running, they would stop and wait. And when the person came back, they would educate them on the issue. A, it's against the law to do it, and B, it can lead to your car being stolen, or worse, being carjacked or something like that. So that was the goal, just to remind people. I don't remember how many contacts we had because it was a while ago, but there was a significant amount. But people started not doing it anymore once you see people over and over again. We sent out emails to civic associations talking about 9 p.m. routine and different routines and educational components. The other thing we did was a high visibility. So what we do when a crime series happens is we have visible components and non-visible components. So most of the cars were being recovered in the District of Columbia. So the goal was to be highly visible with our police cars on areas where people might be coming in from the district and going back to the district. So we had them park in different areas and turn their lights on, just the police flashers on, and sit there and just observe, see what's happening. While at the same time, we had patrol units, and we also had our surveillance units in the area looking for actual stopping criminal activity while it happened. Additionally, you had your the Detective Bureau and the crime analysts reviewing evidence and working with regional partners to try and identify potential suspects. And ultimately, they did arrest someone for it, and several people were arrested over the time frame for carjacking, but they did arrest people for it. And one thing they were told was, I found this funny, is that they stopped coming to Virginia because they saw the police cars and didn't want to take a chance of getting caught. So it was an effective use of staffing and being in the area at the time to do that. So those are two examples of stuff we do. The other, you may have seen out some education, the big traffic signboards we'll put out, which will occasionally, if crimes happen in a certain area, like lock your car doors, and put on some sort of safety message on those too. Any questions before I move on?
I have a quick question, just just a comment. The youth academy with the 25 kids from high school and middle school. I mean, that sounds fantastic. I'm curious how you advertised it. And just a comment on the Green Valley Public Safety Task Force. Again, it just sounds fantastic. I realize those are all decisions you have to make in connection with your resources, and you have to, have resources that can respond to crime. But those kind of community preventive things, I think can be helpful anyway. They sound really good. So curious how you advertise the Youth Academy. And then the other question I had was, do you do any outreach, and maybe you're going to get to it, I'm sorry, specific to drugs and fentanyl in particular? I mean, the number of people that are dying from overdose is continuing to go up. Literally on the ride along on Friday, there was a guy who died, and the sergeant I was with just had to notify his next of kin while we were in the car. I mean, and he did a fantastic job. It's obviously a very delicate and difficult thing to do. But so I'm just curious if there's any outreach specific to the drug issue.
Yes, and we are planning with APS currently to do some training on fentanyl and use of that. One thing, we do work with the schools for substance abuse presentations, but we're doing a new one catering towards fentanyl. But that being said, the schools have to want us there to do that. But we've historically worked really well with them, and we are currently working on a model for that specific fentanyl training with the teachers in the schools. The youth outreach, we advertise it through our website and I believe through the schools. Everything's on our website, and media would have put it out as well through civic associations. I personally sent meetings to civic associations, and I believe they put it out on Nextdoor as well. Nextdoor is something we use, and that'll come up here shortly, is something we really use to try and communicate with the community as well. So these are just some engagement initiatives and programs. Reaching New Heights is through Second Chance. That is something where the kids don't even know we're police officers at first. Second Chance is a program where kids that have been caught with drugs or alcohol, and they go through a programming, and some of it is Reaching New Heights, which is rock climbing. And all the officers are certified belayers, so they will hold the rope and help them learn how to climb the rocks. And then one story about that is there was one kid there who the first time he went was completely unengaged, and if I try to remember this right, completely unengaged, didn't want to climb on the walls or anything, and when the officers got the child to do it, ultimately that was the officer, and they didn't even know it at the time, was the officer that had arrested him. But he was very quiet, not wanting to do it, and when they started climbing the wall, and he completely opened up and really enjoyed it, and it was very effective for it. Community events, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Neighborhood-based activities, community meetings, the Civic Association meeting we talked about. Seasonal donation drives we talked about. We talked about the summer camps and Brooks, which you guys should all meet Brooks at some point. Next slide. So there's my favorite car, Baby Shark. That was from the holiday parade we made. I mean the Halloween parade we did 2 years ago during COVID. The other one is just an appreciation for the Virginia Hospital Center staff that we helped engage with them for everything they did through COVID. So that was our first Halloween car. I think there's a question.
Yeah, I had asked one of the officers a long time ago in Clarendon about your other car, the pink don't drive car, or don't drink and drive car. I wonder if you could refresh us on that, the background on that vehicle.
So that's a BMW, and that was it's a seized vehicle that they turn into a Uber Lyft police car. And the idea behind that is you choose to drink and drive and go with the police, or you choose to take a cab and go home. So it's kind of a visual reminder of, hey, it's not worth it. And that's the idea behind that. It's always in Clarendon. We do some events out there, and they take it out there. The drunk goggles, or the drunk golfing, or the drunk basketball, where you put drunk goggles on, you try and make a putt or shoot a basket after you promise not to drink and drive, and you put a sticker on the car. Very, very minor thing, but you hope if it impacts one person and saves one life, then it was beneficial. And believe it or not, everyone in Clarendon actually enjoys it, because if you actually get the hole-in-one, you get a $10 gift card for food at the restaurant. Some of them are more, it just depends. It's all donated gift cards from the restaurants. As I mentioned, the Arlington Restaurant Initiative, how they work with them, these restaurants are literally donating cards for us to give to them. That's how well they're working together. Sam has done a fantastic job with this. So here are some of our event examples. It's not all of them. It will look like a lot, and I'm not going to explain them all unless you really want me to. We have the Civic Association meetings, which I mentioned, Coffee with a Cop, which is all across the country. We used to do more of them. Now we do 4 a year, basically, two in the spring and 2 in the fall, just because we don't want to overdo it. Typically you'll get 50, 60 people attending there. It's not super attended, but it's an opportunity for people to come and have a conversation with us and ask about what's happening. I mentioned the Reaching New Heights conversations with the chief. That was a takeoff on Coffee with a Cop that the chief wanted us to do as soon as he got hired, or for the chief of police. So we did that last summer, and had, I believe, about 8 conversations, which is basically was based on, and maybe he's already told you about it, is what are we doing well? What have we done well? What can we do better? And as he was formulating a plan for the police department moving forward. After school, summer break activities, Know Your Rights. Know Your Rights is a presentation we do for kids that kind of helps explains what they can and can't do, or what their rights are when they're in police interactions. National Night Out, I explained. I talked about the Support Dog and Rad Kids. We do scout presentations and tours with Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Brownies, you name it. If they ask, we'll go out, teach them how to fingerprint or whatever they're looking for. The block party, the food and toy drives. awareness campaigns, SEPTAG. Girls on the Run is something we did this year, and that's a national thing. And we had a team of our officers. That one's a hard one for us because it was 2 days a week for about 3 months and 2 hours a day. So, and it was 2 to 4 of our team members each time. So you can imagine that takes a lot when you're at very low staffing to do that, because it takes away from a lot of other stuff we can do. But it was and it was only for 8 girls. So the impact on that's not as great as 25 in a teen academy for 1 week, where you can really teach them about policing. Safety patrol camps we talked about, the Arlington Restaurant Initiative. We are partners with Special Olympics, the Trunk or Treat, homeless outreach. I do not think I've talked about that yet. Sober Ride, Fake ID Awards I did mention. 2 of our new Coffee with a Cop variants are Pupusas con Policia. We did that at Sophia's. And some of these pictures I'm going to talk about, but there's the next few slides, there's a whole lot of pictures coming up of all the stuff we did. Pupusas con Policia was at Sophia's on the Columbia Pike, where we partnered with her, and we invited people from that community to come out and ask questions while we broke bread together, eating a whole bunch of pupusas. So that we applied with police, which was down at Freddy's last month during Pride Month. That was our 2nd year of doing that. Reaching new heights. Practice traffic stops. This was a new one we did. We partnered with ARC of Northern Virginia, and Fairfax County had done it, but one of the communities we've never been very good at engaging with our special needs communities. And talking with ARC in Northern Virginia, one concern some of the special needs has was anxiety for traffic stops, is they don't know what to expect or during a traffic stop. So the whole goal was we set up 2 traffic stops and invited anyone with special needs or just has anxiety towards police during traffic stops to come out, and we sat an officer in the car with them. And a lot of times it was parents with just the child in the back that may have the anxiety, and we talked about the traffic stop, and then we would pull up and the police car would be behind them and turn their lights on and siren, and they would come out and run them through or walk them through an actual traffic stop of what was happening. And the police officer in the car would tell them exactly what the officer is doing and what he's looking for, why he's acting or walking the way he is and approaching the car the way he or she is. We did that, and we did a traffic accident. So we did 2. They got to do 2. The really interesting thing about that, it was pretty successful, and it seemed to be enjoyed by the people that attended it. But we got an email a few weeks later from a mother who said that her son had recently driven in a car, and I believe he was involved in an accident, and believed that him actually attending this event helped him get through that accident. So to me, that's kind of special when we can have a positive impact that way on someone. Birthday drive-bys or stop-ins is a big thing, especially during COVID. Everyone did that everywhere, as you get police cars and fire trucks and turn your sirens and honk your horns and lights on and go by to celebrate people's birthdays. We did a pet supply drive and partnering with the animal welfare down on the Arlington Mill. The Pen Pal program was something developed by Officer Kim Souls, who has unfortunately left the department, but it was a program with Carlin Springs Elementary School where we adopted, I don't know how many kids there were, but 40 officers participated in it, and over 2 or 3 months we would write letters back and forth. They would write us a letter, we would write back to them and talk about whatever they want to talk about. How long you've been police, what's your favorite movie, how many kids do you have, what do you want to do when you grow up, you name it. And the officers really got into it, where they would do drawings on the envelopes, they would send patches and stickers and all kinds of stuff, and it was really kind of neat. And at the end, all the officers that were able to come all went to the elementary school, met their pen pal, and had a discussion. We played volleyball in the gym with them, or I don't know what it was a beach ball volleyball in the gym we brought all our police cars out, and they were able to sit in the police cars and turn the siren on and talk in the radio, and it was a really neat event for a couple hours. And it amazed me how much the officers enjoyed it, because sometimes the officers want an escape from the regular day of policing where they can just engage with the community and have fun. And we had people from deputy chiefs to officers to undercover narcotics people doing it. So it was a highly successful. Trivia nights, last one on here. And that is something to develop. And we've got something developing with that later, that a Jeopardy thing we're trying to do. But this is a trivia night where we would go we partner with AHC, Arlington Housing Community, and with the kids they have through their programs, and we'd sit there and go through trivia with them and or bingo, and it was are you smarter than a cop or something like that, and you'd either partner with a police officer and you'd try and win, or it was the kids versus the police officers and who would win, and the kids really enjoyed that too. There's Brooks. That's a coffee with the cop. One of the events, apparently he likes coffee. So like I said, everyone enjoys when Brooks shows up. There it goes. Here's a picture of the Pupusas con Policía at Sophia's. You see JP down at the bottom, Chief Penn, Tatiana, who's from the business outreach. And we had a bunch of Spanish speakers down there that could communicate and have conversations if it had to be done in Spanish. Probably with police, some pictures. You probably recognize some of those people in the pictures. I think you see me in the back. There's Mr. DiFerrante in the middle. And some more people from the police department. And these aren't just attended by community outreach. This is attended by Lieutenant Alicio Pilco, who's right there. Matthew Ryle, who's part of our liaison team. And Kevin Riley, who's in the back, who's in SOS. So it's people from every division that comes and attends these events. One thing about Chief Penn, he's very pro community outreach and really pushes that and expects everyone from each division to participate. So, and I think it's getting noticed. We actually had a citizen say something to us the other day that they don't understand how our staffing is so low, because we seem to be doing all of this outreach all the time, and there's always police there. And it's hard to argue we're low staffing when people see that, but it's a priority. So we make sure we're there and have a presence. So some of the stuff we're doing seems to be getting out there, and we're finally having people. One thing my edict to the team was, I don't want us doing the events. I want us empowering the community to have us. I want them to want us to come out. And that's what we're starting to get. We're getting people reaching out to us, say, hey, can you come out here? Instead of, oh, the police are having coffee with a cop, come talk to us and tell us, how we can do better or whatever, is, hey, we're having an event in Glen Carlin Park. Come flip some pancakes, and picture will be there. JP's flipping pancakes with the Glen Carlin Civic Association. That's the ultimate goal, is we are part of the community. We're not the police department. We are just another entity within the community that is shared by all of us, if that makes sense. That's the ultimate goal, my ultimate goal. Reading to kids, Tanya Velez, who's a day work officer, she keeps teddy bears in her cars, and when kids need them having a bad day, there's always a teddy bear or something present for them. Here's a stop in or birthday. You have Lieutenant Pilco with one of our food drives. Just some different pictures on there. Assisted living. We talked about the teen trivia, so we partner and collaborate with other county departments. The teen trivia, which we talked about, there's a picture of it, of us doing it, and there's a couple of our cars. That's if you want to know who Lego Man is, that is Corporal JP Montoya in our Lego car. And the bottom is our Jurassic Park themed trunk or treat vehicle. And of course, JP's in there as Lego Man as well. He likes getting into pictures. But I was really impressed with these cars. They put a lot of effort into them, and really use their imagination on how to build these things. It's to me it's I don't have the imagination. Maybe I'm too old to think about stuff like that, but these young officers are fantastic. And what I asked them to do is, and when they came to the team, is the goal is I don't want to do what every department does and what everyone does when it's policing. Think outside the box, use your imagination, and that's how the Pen Pal program was developed. And everything you want is a yes until it's a no. Is develop it. Let's see if we can do it. Paint that blank canvas into something special, and I'm going to tell you yes unless there's some reason I can't. Whether it's staffing or money or anything like that. But it's freedom of expression or thought through these officers, and they really came up with some great ideas. The problem I've run into is we have, what did I say, 10? We have so many ideas. We've had to say we can't do this anymore just because you have so much going on. As you saw with the police academies take a long time. I think I don't know how long the Spanish one is. I think it's 6 weeks or 8 weeks, but the Community Police Academy is 8 weeks and the Teen Academy is 1 week. But imagine the planning for that, what it takes. It's 2 or 3 months of planning for each one. At the Community Police Academy, one event we have is Academy Day, where we took everyone out to the academy and we did a behind the badge thing, which I kind of mentioned. We put them through scenarios where they had body cameras, they had police vests, they had fake weapons and police belts, and they got run through scenarios which were very realistic scenarios with someone having a mental episode, someone in a domestic, a couple traffic stops, and it really put them through what we deal with on a daily basis, which you all probably saw on your ride-alongs. So education, career day presentations, we partnered with HC and Long Branch, internet safety presentations, the ARC practice police event, the Teen Police Academy. These are all just examples of education type of things that we're trying to do that are lasting and impactful for the community, that it can be safer for them, but also some of it's educating about the police department, because a lot of the issues with policing today is people don't understand why we do things or how things are done opposed to what's happening. So the more we can educate and people understand the reasons why stuff is done, I think will better help with communication in the future. There's a picture of the ARC event. You can see the traffic stops and some of the people involved. Corporal Velez there again. That was a fun event. We've got another one planned, I think October 8th, if I'm not mistaken, for a very similar event. Safety Patrol Camp. We partner with AAA, and we teach them how to be safety patrol officers. Kids love it. The officers love it. It's very positive. And we have 4 different weeks this summer. I don't know how many kids are in each one. I think there's about 25 in each one, 20 to 25. This is just since the Teen Academy is going on, I wanted to make sure you all saw it. This is one of the advertisements for it, and I'd love to have pictures from it. I got some pictures today, first pictures of some of the Teen Academies talking on the radio as they're doing traffic stops and learning some things, which were really cool pictures. This is the Girls on the Run. One thing we do is coach. We have a lot of officers here that coach and a lot of people in CED. But we coach at the high school: soccer, lacrosse, volleyball, basketball, track. We've coached baseball. We've coached football. I honestly can't keep track of everyone that's coaching, but you have a lot of former athletes there's someone sitting in the room with me that currently coaches volleyball. I won't say who it is, but you all probably know who's sitting in here.
I will speak. I've coached at Debbie Nelford. This is year 17 for me for volleyball. It's been absolutely rewarding, as well as more rewarding of putting kids and assisting them in their college endeavors as well. So major fun.
Maddie Ernesto, who's on our team, she's our female SWAT officer. She's on our team. She coached lacrosse, and they won the state championship there. Was that WNL?
Yorktown.
Yorktown, I'm sorry. And they won. I get confused from the high schools. I coach travel softball, and I've coached it for many years, but I live a bit further down south. But what's great about the officers, they do it because they like it. Deputy Chief Vincent coaches basketball at Kenmore this past year, and he won a state championship with Edison, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Either way, the officers really enjoy engaging with the kids and coaching and having a lasting impact on them. And that's all voluntary or paid, but either way, it's something they don't have to do. It's because they want to. Any questions? We got a lot more pictures coming up. Here's the Pen Pal program. So those are some, as you can see, that's the officers filling those out. Mine was boring because I am not an artist, but that's them filling out and drawing on those cards for these kids, which it amazed me how engaged the officers were and excited about doing it. And we probably had 30 officers plus at the final thing, which is they're taking time off duty to do it on their days off, or working, or out of their day to do it. And they would send all kinds of stuff. It was really popular. So here's Reaching New Heights with the rock climbing wall and the Belane. Those are all CED members or not. A couple of the officers have left now. Unfortunately, Kim Soul's the second one on the blonde hair. She left the department. Unfortunately, she was the one who developed the Pen Pal program. Homeless outreach. This will be. We could talk about this for 4 hours. Michael Keene, the Corporal Michael Keene, who's the officer in the top left corner. He has since left the department and works for DHS now, working with homeless individuals or people in need of services. When COVID started, he felt we had a void and we didn't have enough communication with our homeless population, especially during COVID, where they would need services. And he utilized the ARI, which I talked about earlier, that model, to develop the homeless outreach program. He did it all on his own, obviously with our blessing, and we turned it into a full-time team. When I got to community outreach, before I got there, everyone's like, you wouldn't believe what Michael's doing, and he just needs more time. I got there and said, Michael, how much time do you need? He said, I could do it every day. I said, then do it every day. And that became his job, was homeless outreach, 40 hours a week. And he was actually getting called at home to come in for different crises. And I actually got him a take-home car because he was coming in at all hours and driving his personal car into areas where he probably shouldn't be driving his personal car. And what he did was he took a non-siloed approach and he worked with our homeless shelters and DHS and VHC to provide services that the people in need of services would need. Because the problem is they won't come to you, right? They're not going to go to Virginia Hospital Center, or they may not go to a shelter. So his idea was, we're going to go out and talk to them. And he'll tell you, sometimes it takes 20 times to actually get them to talk to you, because the lack of trust with police officers, or just lack of trust in general in their community. And he got backpacks donated to him, and would take out hygiene kits so they could brush their teeth and shower and different things. He actually got them COVID shots at one point, the COVID vaccine shot. He found a hotel for them to stay at when they had COVID, to get them off the street so they could recover and not infect more of the population. And so we started the program, and Regina right there, who has Brooks, she's part of it, and Carly. Unfortunately, it's not as robust as it was as he left, and we just don't have the personnel to be full-time with it. but Mike, I saw him out in front of the police station today talking to some people. He's still working it hard that way, and it's really amazing what he did. And one thing I had him check was, did it help in the recidivism rate or the arrest rate of some of our individuals, higher arresting individuals in the homeless population? And he looked at it over time, and it did. I don't have the stats in front of me, but it did reduce. We had less contact with some of our higher contact people because of the efforts, and they all knew him. And one individual actually came up to him, that would have been last summer, I believe, with a friend, and they said, "I hear you're the person that helps people." And to me, I'm like, wow, that says it all for me. Is you've got, the word is out that a police officer is helping the homeless community, and they're coming to him for help. So a lot of it's, we've found one guy literally just needed a shot every month, and he was it kept him on the straight and narrow, and just as long as he get a shot, but he wouldn't come get it. So we started bringing the shot to him, and he had very few police interactions after that. He's fantastic. I wish I could tell the whole story, but he does a really good presentation. But it's something that's kind of close to me. I'm really impressed by it. Crime prevention information, the SEPTED we talked about. We do different presentations, child safety tips, safety reminders, and social media. Typically, CED, I will send emails to Civic Association presidents to get messages out, and the team does Nextdoor, which is, 100,000 people in Arlington utilize Nextdoor. So it's a way to get messages out quickly and responses. So here are some of the presentations we offer. Some are recorded. Some will come out, usually to civic associations. We don't get asked to do much anymore. The hard part is with COVID, everything we did was online for a while because there was nothing in person, and civic associations picked back up as they started doing it and virtually, which I like the online version because you can talk to a whole lot more people than would typically attend a civic association meeting. When you're getting 10 or 15 people, if all they have to do is click on a computer, we're now seeing 30, 40, 50 people at meetings. And so we have these different presentations we can utilize to share with different community members when they ask for it. Child safety. So I talked about the transportation safety as one of the key initiatives. This is one thing we do, is we have some pamphlets that we've developed and put out for different child safety. We will help during different transportation events, but this is just an example of some of the things we do that's more written that we can pass out. And we'll take these things to the different events that we have, like the county fair or the block party or anything we do. Some of our safety tips that we work with the media office with, they develop them or we develop them, and then we put it out through Nextdoor or Civic Association's 9 p.m. routine. If you're in Arlington and you haven't heard of the 9 p.m. routine, you're probably not engaged with the county, because we push that out everywhere. And then there's some tips on protecting your car from larcenies. These are just examples. It's not meant for you to see them. It's just examples of stuff ourselves and the media office puts out. We kind of over the holidays, we'll put stuff out seasonally or overall. So preventing motor vehicle thefts is something that always happens. Here's some tips to avoid having your car stolen. And seasonal things like package thefts that happen during Christmas time or the holiday season, we'll put that out through social media. The media office does a really good job of developing these things that they give to us and we put out. Preventing bicycle thefts, just some more examples of tips we'll put out. This is one we developed as last year when marijuana was legalized. There were a lot of questions from building owners and on what they can do or what the issues are with that. So we developed this flyer that we gave to the multifamily housing units that they could just read. It was a simplified version. This is, as I said, education. This is an example of education through a simple form to help people understand kind of how the law is changing. We're trying to be proactive with that instead of just people not understanding. Is like if we can help a little bit, that's fine. Tasha, move forward. The other one, so crime stats is, I did this today with, as I mentioned, with the Crystal City Civic Association in Aurora Highlands, is we will pull crime stats for the county or the certain areas, whoever's asking for it, and we'll talk about what's happening in their specific community, whether crime's up or down. And it's usually a lot more involved in this. For today's, I did stats from 2017 to 2022 to determine if crime stats are going up in the area, and they are. So this, you see Chief Penn at the bottom, that was last year, as we did a public service appreciation day. We had one today, which I spent all my day. I don't know if I'm red or not, but I got pretty sunburned out there, and Chief Penn was flipping burgers again today. This is part of our wellness initiative and internal to help support the officers. That we have the peer support dog day. We actually brought in, I think, 4 peer support dogs last year, and we took them to every part of the building and just let people pet the dog or not pet the dog or do whatever they want. And for some, it was very positive and gave them a 10 or 15 minute release of their day, and some weren't interested, but it does have a positive impact for a lot of people. Candygrams, this is that blank canvas I was talking about and thinking outside the box. Sergeant Sin and Detective McGuire thought we could do a candygram thing, and I'm like, I don't know how that would be taken, but hey, why not? Let's do it. So they offered candygrams, which you could order it and send it to whoever you want in an apartment. They were pre-made, so no one could do something inappropriate, and they could send it to whoever they want. And it, overall, I think it was really well received. It was at Valentine's Day, and everyone got just about, I think everyone probably got some sort of chocolate or whatever with a silly saying on it about just another one to kind of alleviate the day or simplify the day. Lift Me Up is something that our peer support does, and we teamed up with them in the fall. It's with horse stables in Great Falls, where they go out there, and we had a day where they went and barbecued and cooked, and then people could pet and brush horses, which is just another way of stress relief. And here's us. That's Deputy Chief Vincent and myself, and some of our contact information. We actually, one thing we just started, we had like 4 different emails within the division, and we were being contacted every which way. People would call me, people would call the chief, people would call the lieutenant, or they email the officers. And it was, as I said, people are starting to ask us to do stuff. Well, it got very confusing and convoluted. So we established a simple email with a request form on the website where if people want our service, they can fill it out, and it goes straight to Lieutenant Hagloff, who will then assign it to an officer, decide who whether it's a youth officer, business, or community, and assign it. It goes into our calendar, and then they work the event or the community problem or whatever it might be. And we're finding that to be pretty effective, and then less opportunity to miss something, which you wouldn't think you'd miss stuff, but when you get 40, 50 emails a day and a lot of requests, it's easy to miss something. I'm sure you all know that. So this way is hopefully a way to reduce that. That's me. That's what we have. So any questions?
That's really impressive. Thank you for sharing all that. You guys are really doing a lot.
Absolutely.
I just want to echo that. That was really amazing and impressive. And just so you know, my 7-year-old does the 9 p.m. routine every night. So definitely worked in our house at least.
That's fantastic. It's amazing how people can just forget to lock doors and stuff like that. So if it's like your alarm, My wife has an alarm at 8 o'clock every night to give her her parents their medicine that they need, and it's the same thing. And she remembers it because of that. So it can help reduce crime and protect you. So I'm glad to hear that.
Okay,
All right,
great.
is there
Yeah.
any more questions?
It doesn't appear to be. So what I was going to propose is something that'll keep us on track, but also give our trainers a little bit of a break. If that works for you, Captain Chamberlain. The COB has a couple of things we need to do that probably won't take us more than 5 minutes, which will give you all a chance to take a break, if that works, and then you guys can come back at 8:30 when we're done.
Sounds good.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm sorry I'm not giving you guys a break, but we have 2 things we got to do. We're going to try and do them quick. So the first thing we have to do is approve the minutes from, I believe it's the June 14th, June 21st, and the July 5th meetings. We've been so busy, we haven't had an opportunity to do it. So first, I just want to ask if there's any corrections that anybody wants to suggest to any of the minutes. Nope. Okay, so if not, I will entertain a motion to adopt the minutes from the meetings. If anybody wants to make that. Great. Anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
Fantastic. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Wow, we did that in record time. So so we have adopted, we have officially adopted the meeting notes from those 3 meetings, so thank you. The only other thing I have at this moment is just to remind people that we do have our 2 meetings in August. I think the first one is August 2nd. That's going to be a NACOL training. And then whatever 2 weeks after that is. 19th. Is that right? I can't do math. In any case, 2 weeks later, we're going to have another training, which I believe will be another ACPD training. That one's going to be in person, so that'll be the first time we'll get to do these in person. The only problem is we will not have a regular business meeting because both of our meetings are going to end up being trainings. Otherwise, we would have to add an additional meeting or add an additional hour. If something comes up and we feel we need to do that, we can do that. But at the moment, the way the schedule is, it's going to be 2 trainings. It just worked out that way. Normally, the August 2nd meeting would have been our normal regular meeting, but because of scheduling with NACOL, that just ended up being the day we did it. So, so that's just to give you all a reminder. Any questions or concerns about any of that?
So do we need to circulate the communication policy to the group? I think we do. I mean, it's like 90, I mean, pretty like 95% done, I think, right?
Yeah. I need to sync up with Dan when I'm not on travel, and then I think we can circulate it before our August 2nd meeting, and that way folks have plenty of time to circulate questions, and we can, I think that actually it works in our favor that next month we've got them switched, because then we can have some business sort of, if not done, then in the works for the September meeting for a final approval.
Yeah, so first of all, I can't thank the 2 of you enough for all the work you're doing on this. It's so important, and it's great that you have been able to keep this on track. So yes, as soon as you feel that it is in a place that you're ready to get feedback, by all means, you know, I leave that to you, but you should share it whenever it feels appropriate. And yes, you'll have a little bit more time. We'll end up discussing it in September. I know it's not, we have so much to do. In some ways, it's unfortunate we're not going to have any time to do any of our regular stuff in August. But the trainings are really important. And so, there you go. Okay. Any other questions or concerns?
Yeah, just as Gary, the August 19th meeting, have we already sent out or have we received any extra information about that meeting, protocols, anything of that sort, location and or any protocols, just so everybody's comfortable with that in-place meeting?
So no, we haven't, as far as I'm aware, unless Jim has sent anything out. Do you have any thoughts on that, Jim?
Not yet, Gary, and actually I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. It's going to be for August 16th. It's a Tuesday. What is on that schedule? So that's session 4. You can refer to attachment 1 for inside of our overall planning document for our success. That said, part of that, Gary, is a tour of Arlington County Police Department and alongside the command center. Once we get a chance, and we'll socialize, of course, with Captain Chamberlain and also with the county management team to determine the right place for the follow-on discussions of digital evidence and the criminal investigation division.
So to confirm, August 2nd is not in person, is that right? Or
No. The in-person starts August 15th.
okay.
So I'm sorry, Graham, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to share that we have a room reserved for the COB on the 16th. So the logistics are taken care of, and we'll make sure that that is distributed to you all after. Yeah, Lynn just put it in the chat. So, but we'll distribute it more formally with directions and all that closer to the meeting.
Great, thanks. And we're over 1 minute, but we got all our business done, which is the good news. So if Captain Chamberlain, if you're back and you guys are ready, please go ahead.
All right, this will be the last one. This is Miss Ashley Savage. She is our Public Information Officer.
Good evening, everybody. As Captain Chamberlain said, I'm Ashley Savage. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Arlington County Police Department. I oversee the Police Department's Media Relations and Public Affairs Office. A little bit of background about myself. I have been with the Police Department for just over 10 years. I began as a policy writer, managing all of the department's manual directives, and then I moved into the Media Relations position in January of 2016. I oversee 2 civilian staff members. I myself am a civilian staff member with the agency, so the Media Relations and Public Affairs Office has 3 members altogether. And while we work at standard business hours, we work here Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 type hours. We have on-call coverage 24/7, 365, in case there is a critical incident or other requests from the media regarding the activities of the police department. We're available to respond to active criminal incidents, to do press briefings there, and also answer any questions that we get maybe through email, phone calls, text messages, all of those. I work directly under the Chief of Police. I think that's important in our ability to release information. I do speak on behalf of the agency, so there is work that I do autonomously, but also there's information that the Chief needs to be briefed on. And I also support and work with all 3 divisions within the police department. It's really important that we're fulfilling our mission of being transparent across all divisions within the agency. So I think working for the Chief is important in that role. In addition to working with staff across the police department, this job is really important in building relationships, be it with the media as well as our partner agencies. That includes our county staff in the communications roles, as well as our public safety partners. For instance, you may have seen today that we had an incident at Washington Liberty High School where there was a report of shots heard. That incident required close coordination with my partners at Arlington Public Schools to ensure consistent messaging between the police department and APS, as well as with the fire department, because it is a joint investigation with the fire marshal's office. Additionally to that, like I said, I work with my regional law enforcement partners as well. I respond to assist other agencies when they've had significant incidents. For instance, last year, sadly, a Pentagon Force Protection Agency officer was killed in the line of duty. I responded to the Pentagon to assist their media office. I responded in Alexandria when they had the congressional shooting. It is a unique type of career, and it's one in which if you've worked in media relations for a police department, you're used to that fast nature. And so having that support when you have a large incident is really important. And so I do work closely with my regional partners. Over here, you'll see a little bit of an overview. The beginning comes directly from our manual directive. We are committed to transparency, integrity, and accountability. There really are, 4 major components, I would say, of the work that my staff conduct. Just as our name says, media relations and public affairs, but we also manage the department's social media presence and as well as the website. Those really help us in supporting our media relations and public affairs activities. Hopefully, as people have been doing their presentations, they have discussed at length our key initiatives. Our key initiatives are crime prevention and control, transportation safety, community engagement, and employee wellness. Those really guide our agency as we deliver professional police services to the Arlington community. Everything that we put out as far as the media office really aligns with the departmental initiatives, and it's really important that we're reinforcing that and the information that we're putting out to the public, so the public understands what guides us as we continue to provide police services. So media relations, that is the largest component, I would say, of our positions here within the agency. We are, as the media office, the spokespersons for the agency. All media inquiries come through my office. So what does the media ask about? Sometimes they'll ask about criminal incidents because they hear it from our radio traffic. Media do listen to our primary radio channel and will follow up on information. They receive tips from the community. They see large police presence. They'll follow up on things about that. Sometimes we'll have regional issues. You'll have an incident in another jurisdiction, and media is following up to see, what's happening. For instance, a lot of law enforcement agencies are struggling with staffing. And we recently, did a regional response to a media outlet that was looking for information across all agencies about what their staffing were. Sometimes we'll get stats requests, so they'll be looking for different statistical numbers from each of the agencies. And also sometimes for court information. If somebody is arrested in another jurisdiction and media sees that they've been arrested previously in Arlington County because they have checked the Virginia court system, they might follow up about that. Additionally, my office handles what would traditionally be considered crisis communications. So a significant criminal incident that results in a media response. During those incidents, my team will establish a media staging area. You can see in the photos, the one on the left is shooting in Crystal City. So you see we have a media staging area set up. I'm letting the media know what's occurring. And during those incidents, we'll also tweet out information to notify the public and the media as well. My office handles all of our media interviews. These can be on camera, telephone, and now Zoom. That was not really a thing pre-pandemic. It does make life a little bit easier when you're able to do them virtually, but we see those a lot now. And then statements in writing when media outlets are looking more for a statement than they are an on-camera interview. So what do we release as far as information? So we have to balance the transparency, because we're committed to being transparent. We want to be able to inform the public, but we also have to ensure the integrity of an ongoing investigation and also the future prosecution. Individuals that are arrested with and charged with crimes, those are alleged. They will go through the court procedures. That is where everybody has their day in court. We're not looking to try people in the media, so there is that balance of information. I always remind people in media, like in court, you will get a lot more information that you'll ever get from the police department because we have to balance that. We have to, be transparent about what has occurred, but also ensure that the individual can get a fair trial. We are governed by Virginia code as far as the disclosure of law enforcement information. Certain information is protected. For instance, a really common one that probably aware of is juvenile information. Identities of juveniles is not releasable under Virginia code. But there are certain other things that are protected. Victims are protected. Certain incidents are protected, such as domestics, because we are protecting the victims. When we release information as far as locations, we're using block numbers, not specific addresses, to protect the rights of victims. So different information is protected under Virginia law. And additionally, we have policy 52301, release of information, which governs our release of information. As I talked about, there is that balance in how we release information, and really, ensuring that individuals do have their right to due process. So certain things are prohibited from us from releasing in our policies. For instance, we cannot release information if an individual has confessed. We don't release information on their prior criminal history. Again, we want to make sure that, while we're being transparent, we are doing that job of balancing that information. In addition to the information that media asks us about, we also pitch stories to the media. When it comes to criminal incidents, we don't have to invite the media. The media is going to come, right? If you watch the news, you see that there is a lot of coverage of criminal incidents. However, there are still good stories that we want to get out as well. And so having those relationships with media is important to see if we can pitch that information and have them come out to it. The photo on the right is from our regional Street Smart campaign. So that's a transportation safety campaign that happens throughout the DC area, in which law enforcement agencies conduct high visibility traffic enforcement with the goal of making our roadways safer for vulnerable road users, such as pedestrians, bicyclists. And excellent. Okay. So those are the campaigns that we can't always get media out to, right? They're not really the sexy stories. So it is working with our media partners and building those relationships and pitching those stories to media, so they'll still cover them and we can get out critical information to our community as well. So dissemination of criminal incident information. One of the main things that my team works on every day is the daily crime report. It is created every weekday, so Monday through Friday, and it covers significant incidents generally from the day before. We follow a standard of releasing information based on crime type. So we would provide a summary of criminal information for incidents like burglaries, robberies, malicious woundings, indecent exposures, sexual batteries, shots fired, property crime series, unlawful entries, things of that nature. And then we'll list the property crime offenses. We couldn't possibly write up every report because when we're doing the daily crime report, we are reviewing our police incident reports and drafting the summary. We also issue all the press releases for the department. So we'll do significant criminal incidents, fatal crashes come through as press releases, but we also promote campaigns that we participate in. For instance, we do a lot with the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration. They do things like click it or ticket, drive sober, get pulled over. So we cover those. We issue press releases for significant road closures during special events, events that we're hosting, such as Coffee with a Cop, Pride with the Police, any of those types of things will come through as press releases. Social media, we use Twitter as our emergency release of information. So if we're on scene of a critical incident and we need to release information, it will come through social media. For instance, if you go on our Twitter account today, you'll see that we shared information about the incident again at Washington Liberty High School this morning. That's really important. When you have an incident and media is listening to the radio, obviously everybody wants the information, and media cannot release information without confirming it to you, most media outlets. Radio traffic is not a confirmed source, so they're going to want to confirm that information. However, it's one of me and many of them, so all of a sudden you'll have this influx of individuals trying to contact you, and social media is really critical for being able to get out the basic information to everybody at once so that media can start reporting from a confirmed source. And then finally, we have the online crime map. That map is generated automatically using our records management system. The addresses are offset again for privacy of our victims. So it's not a specific address, but we'll give you the block number of the incident, the case number, what the crime type was, and you can put in your address and populate the incidents that occur near your location. In addition to disseminating information, working with media, it is important that my office is also ensuring that the information that is released is also accurate, and that when information is incorrect, that we reach out to our media partners and ask for corrections. These are two that we worked on last week. The one on the left, you can see Alexandria had a homicide or a double homicide last weekend, but you can see the photo is Arlington County. So did reach out to WTOP and ask them to make that adjustment. They did make it, unfortunately, because they had already issued it through social media. The photo with the Arlington County Police Cruiser remains as part of that article for the ones that they put on social. On the other side, you'll see one about a series of indecent exposures. So a reporter had reached out to me about this incident. So as I said before, we create the daily crime report, but we do it on weekdays. We don't do it on the weekends. My team is off on the weekends unless there is a significant incident. So Monday's report covers incidents from the weekend. And when we write them up, each incident summary includes the date and the time of the incident. But because there was a string of incidents across 2 daily crime reports, they read that to be 48 hours worth of incidents. And when I responded to them, I explained to them that this was a 4-day case of incidents, and you could see the dates of the incidents. When they reported it as a 2-day, and so you can see this is after I requested the edit, so you can see the title had been updated. It says Arlington Police investigate a 4-day string of indecent exposures. That's correct. But you can see the subheader is still incorrect. It says officials say over the course of 2 days. I know that might seem minor, but it is important that the information that's put out is accurate. So it is a little bit of having to go back and forth to make sure that the information is consistent. Also, other media outlets do follow each other, and once one media outlet covers something, you will hear from other media outlets, which is why it's important that the information is corrected when it's incorrect, so that another media outlet does not ultimately pick that up and again report incorrect information. So it really covers media relations. We also handle public affairs. If you scan this QR code, you will find that it goes to our engage page. So there are lots of ways that we try to engage with the public, because we are committed to effectively communicating to ensure the public's trust. So this is actually a business card that we have, and we have it in English and Spanish, and we bring this out to community events. People can scan the QR code, and it brings them to some key contacts for the police department. Generally the contacts that we think most people will reach out to. For instance, you just heard from Captain Linder, who oversees our community engagement division. They're on there. My office is on there. Some other contacts that are important. There's crime information, so the daily crime report, police newsroom, the online crime map is linked there. Ways to subscribe, so our press releases are pushed out through a listserv, so people can subscribe there to police news as well as our newsletters. Online services, you can report non-emergency crimes online. You can report an ongoing transportation safety issue to us. We have the complaint form, the accommodations form, all of that's linked through there, as well as our online services, and then ways that the community can stay connected with us through our social media accounts. As far as public affairs, there's lots of ways that we promote different things that are happening within the police department. So we create event flyers. This covers everything from anything that we host. So Coffee with the Cop, Pride with the Police. We have the block party coming up. Our donation drives. All of those things we'll make flyers for, and ask that our community engagement division helps us in promoting those. We'll do video messages occasionally. I'll be honest, we don't do that as often. It is more of a tedious lift for us, just because we are a small team. But we'll do video messages occasionally. We did one over the holidays about package thefts with our community engagement division. We do educational materials. July 1 Virginia codes were updated, and one of the biggest ones that we heard concerns about was the change in loud mufflers, making the loud exhaust a primary offense again. So we did messaging around that. We also did media around this, and we deployed the variable message boards, the electronic message boards across the county, so you may have seen those. We do program information. This one's on our drug take-back program. We have 4 permanent drug take-back boxes located across the county that are available 24/7, 365. But we do different flyers on programs and other information. Fact sheets. It's important to me that when we have some type of larger change or issue that may need additional messaging, that the entire department is working off the same sheet of music, essentially, that we are consistent with what we're releasing. Earlier this year, we announced service changes and a reallocation of resources due to lower staffing. So that staff across the agency was articulating this in the same way. We did create this fact sheet. It's available on our website. This service adjustment included a press release, a video message from the chief, the fact sheet, and social media messaging. So there was enough out there, but we really want to make sure at times in which our officers are out in the community, informing the public of changes that we're all working on the same thing. So fact sheets, and then newsletters. The newsletter my team works on goes out once a month from our community outreach section and highlights various different things along our 3 key initiatives. Additionally, we work on publications. So my team completes the annual report each year. The annual report is the release of crime information, crime statistics from the year previously, as well as traffic stats from the previous year. It's also aligned with the 3 key initiatives, and so it includes accomplishments across each one of them, and just a great way to highlight the various things that our department's done the previous year in support of the 3 key initiatives. The monthly newsletter is a newsletter that goes out through our listserv, through community outreach. Each month it includes a message from the chief, information about accountability and transparency, so the number of complaints and accommodations we've received, trainings that we've attended, internal agency updates, so any awards we've received, promotions, retirements, things of that nature. It has crime statistics, and then transportation safety and community engagement highlights. And as I said, it comes out each month. And then social media, as I said before, we do try to make sure that everything that we do is aligning with the key initiatives of the department. So these are just some highlights from our social media accounts. So for community engagement, you can see this is from Pride with the Police. My team will attend community events, take photos, and post these information. But also because it's important for us that we are, promoting the agency and being transparent, our officers will also send me photos. The one on the right is from an event that our community engagement division attended on a Saturday, but they'll make sure that they're sending photos off to us so that we can promote those. Crime prevention and control, as I've said, that we're trying to make sure that we're keeping the public informed about significant incidents, but there may be also times that we're looking for the public's assistance. So we released this one for a bank robbery. We're looking for information related to who the suspect was, and we have our tip line and additional information in our news release. And then the one on the right, when we see trends in crimes, we want to make sure that we're providing the public with information that they can take steps to ensure the safety of their property. So we had seen an increase in motor vehicle thefts and shared ways that the community could, be involved and take crime prevention steps. Transportation safety, as I said before, my team does all of the press releases around special events that include planned road closures. So your Marine Corps Marathon, your Army 10 miler, the Armed Forces Cycling Classic, any of that stuff will come through our newsroom, but we also try to make sure that we're promoting it on social media so people don't get stuck in the closures. And we also participate in various different transportation safety campaigns. So this other one was a partnership with the Washington Regional Alcohol Program. You may be familiar with the Sober Ride program, where you may have seen our hot pink vehicle that is a partnership with RAP and Lyft as a high visibility reminder to arrive home safely after drinking. We hosted in Arlington the kickoff event for Cinco de Mayo back in May with a bunch of our law enforcement partners. So we'll be sharing that information through our social media accounts, and so people are aware of the program. And then finally, I'd say that our team is responsible for the website. So that includes all of the content updates, the general look and layout. I will say we're under the county structure, so the county ultimately has one website platform, but it's up to us to try to optimize that. The county did participate in or migrated to a new website platform in 2021. So we moved to a whole new website and a different service provider. So that did require a lot of work from my team to get all the information migrated over and to make sure everything was working and there was no broken links. And one of the main things I would say with the website that we always try to do is really to look for ways that we can streamline processes. While there are many times in which we need you to call non-emergency to report information to us, there's other information that we can capture from the public in different ways. So as Captain Linder said, for the community engagement division, they were trying to figure out a way to streamline, how they were receiving a request from the community. My team created an online form for them. We worked with them to kind of figure out how best to collect that information, what information that they needed. We're also using online forms for things like National Night Out to help us in streamlining what events are occurring. We do it for things like the Community Police Academy. So trying to look for different ways in which we can streamline processes on the website while also promoting content that is of interest to the community. And I think that's generally the overview from the Media Relations and Public Affairs Office. I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear from me tonight. And if you have any questions about media relations, I'm happy to answer them.
I just have a quick question. Can we join the monthly, I wasn't familiar with the monthly newsletter. Is that something that we can get, or what would the story be on?
Yep, so I can if I send you the link, can you send it to them? Okay, I'll send the link to the subscription page. That slide that I had up that had the QR code, once you go on the Engage page, you'll see there's a subscription services. For that one, you would just subscribe under, I think it says Community Outreach Newsletter, but I will double check and I'll send you guys the link.
Okay, okay, great. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for wanting to subscribe.
Any other questions?
Any more questions? No, I don't think so. Thank you so much. That was really interesting. I really enjoyed the session. I've enjoyed all of them, but I've really enjoyed this one, learning about all the fantastic things that the ACPD does in outreach, and just the time and effort and thoughtfulness that goes into it is really impressive. And as always, we really appreciate all of you spending all this time and staying late, you know, to spend time with us and let us know all the fantastic things you do. Captain Chamberlain, is that the end of the sessions that were planned for today?
It is. We're giving you 5 minutes back.
Fantastic. That's always good news. Okay, so any additional business from the COB members that we want to discuss? No. Okay, well then, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll move. We adjourn.
Fantastic. Anybody want a second?
I second.
Okay, great. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? No. Good meeting. 4 minutes back. Use them wisely. See you all next month. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.